Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was supposed to be a celebration, rooftop lights glowing like stars above San Diego, music pulsing low under the chatter, and champagne flutes clinking softly. But the mood snapped like a twig the second Natalie leaned too far over the table, slurring into her glass. Honestly, I married down. Jacob's too ugly to be with someone like me. Dead silence. Every fork froze midair. Conversations cut off. Our friends, people I'd laughed with, vacationed with, shared years of dinners with, just stared. I blinked once. I didn't react right away. My first instinct was to check her face, to see if she was joking, but no, Natalie, my wife, wasn't grinning. She looked half drunk, half victorious, like she'd just delivered some bold truth and expected applause for it. From the other end of the table, Kevin, my old college roommate, broke the silence. "Dude, what the hell?" he said, frowning at her. "Oh, relax," Natalie laughed, waving it off like she hadn't just gutted me in front of everyone. "It's just a joke. Lighten up." I sat still. My jaw didn't clench. My hands didn't shake. But inside, something shifted. I stood up, slowly, not raising my voice. "A joke?" I asked. "You call publicly humiliating your husband on his birthday a joke?" Natalie's eyes flickered, like she realized she'd gone too far, but wasn't ready to back down. "Oh, come on, Jacob, don't be so sensitive. Everyone knows I'm the looker in this couple." Someone coughed uncomfortably. Brianna, one of her best friends, leaned toward her with a tight-lipped whisper. "Natalie, maybe just stop." "No, let her talk," I said, keeping my eyes on her. "Tell me again how you really feel. This isn't the first time, right?" She scoffed, but her confidence faltered. "It's not that deep." Kevin looked right at me, shaking his head. "Man, that was cold. I don't care how drunk she is. That's messed up." Lindsay added under her breath. "It's shallow. Completely unnecessary." Natalie's smile vanished. She looked around, realizing the room wasn't laughing with her. It was recoiling. "I didn't mean it like that," she tried, her tone shifting. "You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I just nodded once, slowly, and sat back down without another word. The music felt louder now, the lights too bright. No one made a toast. No one offered cake. People started murmuring excuses, slipping out one by one. The party died right there at the table, leaving behind only awkward silence and half-finished drinks. I watched her try to laugh it off, her hand brushing mine like she could sweep it all under the rug. But I didn't laugh. I didn't touch her hand. And I didn't forget. Because that moment, that single line, spoken without a trace of love or care, cut deeper than she realized. And I wasn't going to let it slide. Not this time. As I stood near the edge of the rooftop, city lights glowing far below, one thought planted itself deep and quiet in my mind. This wasn't the end of something. It was the start of something else entirely. The next afternoon, sunlight was spilling through the blinds of my apartment, warming the floor like nothing had happened, like my world hadn't just tilted sideways the night before. But even with the bright light and quiet hum of the fan, everything still felt off. I was sitting on the couch, flipping aimlessly through emails, mostly avoiding my phone. I didn't want to see the text Natalie had sent that morning. "Sorry if I went too far last night. You know how I get when I drink." Right. That's what it was. Just the alcohol. My finger hovered over the message before locking the screen and tossing the phone face down on the coffee table. Then, just as I leaned back, a notification buzzed. Instagram. A direct message. From Camille. Camille Walker. Natalie's best friend since college. The kind of woman who made everyone feel like they belonged, with that warm, steady energy and a smile that actually meant something. She and I had never really talked much outside of group settings. But she was there last night. She'd seen everything. Her message was short. "Hey, that was brutal last night. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No pressure." I stared at the message longer than I should have. Then typed back. "Appreciate it. Honestly, I don't even know what to say." She responded instantly. "You don't have to. Just coffee sometime. My treat." Something about her tone was different from the usual sympathy. It wasn't pity. It was real, grounded, gentle in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't answer right away. I got up, started making a sandwich I didn't really want. But her message kept echoing in my head. That was the thing about Camille. She never felt like part of Natalie's performances. She was always the one watching, quietly reading the room. I found myself typing again. "Yeah, Maybe that'd be nice. Later that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a glass of water, still not quite settled. Natalie came in, barefoot, hair wet from a shower, wearing one of my old t-shirts like nothing was wrong. "You've been on your phone a lot today," she said, eyeing me. I didn't look up. "So?" She moved toward the fridge. "Just interesting. You barely touched it yesterday. Now you can't seem to put it down." I kept my voice even. "That's what phones are for, right?" She turned, leaning on the counter, crossing her arms. "You're being secretive." That made me laugh, low short. "Secretive?" I repeated. "You insult me in front of our entire friend group, and now you're worried I'm on my phone too much?" Natalie didn't flinch. She leaned in, voice colder now. "Who are you texting?" I stood up slowly, finished my water, and set the glass down with a soft click. "You don't get to ask that right now." Her brows furrowed. "Wow. So now I don't get to ask questions in my own house." I stepped past her, calm. Not angry, just done with the back and forth. "You don't get to play offended, Natalie. Not after what you pulled last night." She followed me down the hall, arms swinging at her sides. I said I was sorry. "But you're acting like I burned down the house." I stopped just before the bedroom, turned back toward her. "No," I said. "You just made sure everyone saw how little respect you have for your husband. That's a different kind of fire." For a second, she didn't say anything. Then her tone shifted, that high, defensive sarcasm she used when things started slipping out of her grip. "Oh my God, you're seriously this hurt over a drunk joke? Jacob, it wasn't that deep." But I wasn't listening anymore. I opened the door to the bedroom and walked in without another word. I heard her curse softly under her breath behind me, then retreat down the hallway. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Camille. "If tomorrow works, I know a quiet spot. Good coffee, no pressure." I stared at it, then typed, "Tomorrow works." And with that one message, something shifted. A line was drawn. I wasn't sure what I was walking toward, but I knew what I was walking away from. Saturday evenings settled over the townhouse like velvet, soft, slow, deceptively calm. The kind of night you could almost mistake for normal if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention. Every second of it. I stood in front of the mirror, buttoning up a navy shirt I hadn't worn in months. The collar was crisp, sleeves rolled just enough to look effortless. A new watch rested on my wrist. Nothing flashy, just clean, precise. I could hear Natalie moving around in the kitchen, opening drawers, letting things clang louder than necessary. She hadn't asked where I was going all day, but I could feel the questions pressing at the walls like steam building in a kettle. By the time I slid on my jacket and grabbed my wallet, she finally appeared in the hallway, leaned casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, trying to sound light. "Big plans tonight." I met her eyes, slow and steady. "Yeah." She tilted her head, feigning surprise. "Oh, with who?" I didn't blink. "Camille." Just her name, and the world shifted. Natalie's arms dropped. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "You're kidding." "No," I said plainly. "I'm not." She stepped forward, voice rising. "You're going out with Camille?" "My best friend Camille?" I corrected. "Seems like that friendship's cooling off." Her eyes narrowed like she was trying to figure out if I was bluffing. But I wasn't. She scoffed, arms flailing as she paced. "Unbelievable. You're doing this just to get back at me." "Actually," I said calmly, grabbing my keys, "I'm doing this because Camille treats me like a person. Something you've forgotten how to do." Her laugh was sharp. "Wow. So you two have coffee once, and now you're soulmates?" I stepped past her, not bothering to argue. "Have a good night, Natalie." She blocked the doorway. "You really think this is okay? You think this won't blow up in your face?" I leaned in just slightly, lowering my voice. "What blew up was last week. On that rooftop. When you decided to humiliate me in front of people I called friends." Her voice cracked. "So this is revenge." I shook my head slowly. "No. This is me not shrinking anymore." Natalie stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And maybe she didn't. Because this version of me, the one walking out, the one not explaining himself, wasn't the man who used to ask for permission just to be respected. She reached for something, anything. "Jacob, come on. She's not even your type." I gave a half smile as I opened the door. That's the thing. Turns out my type is someone who sees me. The door clicked shut behind me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small walking away. The place was one of those hip downtown spots that somehow managed to feel both intimate and buzzing at the same time. Warm lights hanging low, exposed brick walls, and the faint hum of soft jazz threading through clinking glasses and quiet conversation. Camille sat across from me, swirling her wine with a grin that reached her eyes. She wore a deep green dress that matched the softness in her voice. Not flashy, not loud, just effortless. Being with her felt oddly natural, like a conversation I'd stepped back into rather than started new. I swear, she said, laughing mid-sip. Natalie once dragged me to a 2-hour eyelash extension appointment and made me record the whole thing like it was a documentary. I nearly choked on my drink. That sounds exactly like her. I'm surprised she didn't ask for drone footage. Camille laughed, and I noticed the way her nose crinkled when she did. Small detail, but real. Unrehearsed. The kind of thing you don't fake. Just as I reached for my fork, I heard the sound no one wants to hear during a good dinner. Heels. Fast. Angry. I looked up, and there she was, Natalie. She walked in like a storm front. Cheeks flushed, lips tight, hair twisted up in a bun like she'd barely tried to look composed, but couldn't help herself. Her eyes locked on Camille, then on me. Camille leaned back slowly, her posture calm but alert. Well, that didn't take long. Natalie didn't even glance at the hostess. She marched straight over and pulled out the empty chair at our table. I'm sitting, she announced flatly. I didn't object. Neither did Camille. That, more than anything, seemed to throw her off. She sat stiffly, then leaned forward. Really, Jacob? Camille? I took a sip of wine, not bothering to answer. She turned to Camille. You're seriously okay with this? With stabbing me in the back? Camille lifted an eyebrow. You humiliated him. In front of all of us. I don't know you silence after that. Natalie blinked, taken aback at the bluntness. You could have told me. You could have, like you told him he was beneath you. Camille cut in, calm but sharp. The waiter appeared, too cheerful for the moment. Everything good here? Yes, Camille and I answered together. Natalie just glared. As he left, she tried again. So what is this? A pity dinner? Camille leaned in. No, Nat. It's a real one. Something you forgot how to have. I stayed quiet. Every now and then, I'd catch someone at a nearby table glancing over, sensing the awkward energy, but not daring to look too long. Natalie tried to regain her footing, plastering on a smirk. This is ridiculous. You don't even know each other. I finally spoke. No, but we're learning. And I'm starting to see what real conversation feels like. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. The rest of the dinner was a blur of long silences, low tension, and Camille and I picking up conversation again, slowly, carefully, as if Natalie wasn't even there. When dessert came, she stood abruptly. Enjoy each other, she snapped, then turned and stormed out the same way she came in. Fast, loud, wounded. Camille watched her leave, then looked at me. That was theatrical. I chuckled. Yeah, but you handled it well. She smiled softly. So did you. And just like that, we clinked glasses again. I didn't know what this was yet, or what it would become. But I knew one thing for sure. Natalie wasn't the center of the room anymore. It had been a strangely quiet week. Natalie hadn't brought up the restaurant incident. She barely looked at me when we crossed paths at home. If anything, she acted like she was above it all, floating through the days with her phone glued to her hand and her smile saved only for the screen. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. Not exactly. One night, I came home from work. Same routine, same keys hitting the dish by the door, and something hit me before I even got 2 steps down the hallway. A smell. Not perfume. Not anything of hers. Cologne. Sharp. Musky. Expensive. Not mine. I paused by the bedroom door. The scent was strongest there, hanging in the air like a quiet warning. The window was cracked open, the bed made, too perfectly. Natalie wasn't home. I didn't move right away. I just stood there, staring at that bed, knowing without knowing. She'd brought someone here. To our home. I didn't need proof beyond that. No text. No photo. That smell didn't belong. It didn't even try to hide. I went to the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and drank it slow, not to calm myself, but to think. And what I thought was, I needed to disappear. Quietly. Strategically. Later that night, Natalie came in like nothing had happened. Tossed her bag down, said a half-hearted hey. I nodded. Work ran late. She didn't notice the way I was watching her. She didn't smell it anymore. She'd grown used to it. Or maybe she just didn't care. At dinner, we sat across from each other like strangers. She scrolled while eating. I just observed. Finally, I broke the silence. I've got a work trip next week. She looked up, surprised. Where to? Downtown. Client wants to meet in person. I'll stay close by for a couple nights. She shrugged. Okay. No curiosity, no follow-up. And that told me everything. She didn't even ask which client. Because she wasn't listening. I was lying, obviously. There was no client. But I had already booked a small studio apartment across town. Furnished. Month-to-month lease. I was moving out, not permanently. Not yet. But enough to watch what I needed to see. I started packing that night. Just essentials. Laptop, clothes, documents. When she asked why my bag was out, I didn't offer anything. Just a vague, figured I'd get ahead of the packing. She didn't press. She was too busy texting someone else. The next evening, as I loaded a few boxes into my car, I caught her on the porch talking quietly on her phone. Her back was to me. She was laughing. Not the laugh she used with me. This one was warmer. Looser. I stood still, watching her silhouette against the porch light. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just focused. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't going to scream or break anything. I was just going to watch. Document. Learn. Whatever came next, I would be ready. Natalie, on the other hand, had no idea what was coming. The rain came down in waves that Tuesday night, thick and relentless, turning the streetlights into smeared halos. I sat parked across from the townhouse, engine off, windshield fogging at the corners. Wipers didn't matter, I wasn't moving. It was just past midnight. I'd been watching for hours. No movement. Lights off. Silence pressing in from all sides. And then, it happened. A dark sedan pulled up, headlights off. The driver didn't hesitate. He stepped out, tall, broad, confident, like he'd been here before. Umbrella in one hand, keys in the other. Not fumbling, not checking the address. Just walked straight up to my front door. Our front door. I didn't breathe. He paused, glanced over his shoulder, then let himself in. The door opened, closed, locked again. And just like that, he was inside. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. My pulse pounded in my ears, not from jealousy, not fear. Something else. A final click, like a puzzle falling into place. I stepped out of the car. Rain soaked through my jacket in seconds. My shoes hit the pavement fast, loud, deliberate. Across the street. Up the steps. I didn't knock. I threw the door open. And there he was, standing in the hallway, shrugging off his coat like he belonged there. Natalie appeared from the kitchen, barefoot, holding 2 glasses of wine, her hair pulled back casually like she wasn't expecting company beyond him. When she saw me, the color drained from her face. The glasses in her hands trembled. One nearly slipped. Jacob, who is he? I said flatly. The man stepped forward, wiping water from his brow, sizing me up like I was the inconvenience. Chill out, man. I turned to him, eyes locked. You don't live here. You don't get to speak like you do. He raised his hands in mock defense. Relax. She said you were out of town. Natalie's voice cracked. This isn't what it looks like. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The robe. The wine. The open bedroom door behind her. No. I said softly. Then what is it? She blinked fast. We were just talking. He was leaving soon. You let him in with a key. She faltered. I gave him a copy. Just in case. The man smirked, leaning against the wall like this was a scene he'd seen play out before. Listen, man, if you're gonna blow up, do it later. This is awkward for everybody. I took one step closer. My voice low, steady, deadly calm. If you ever step foot in this house again, I promise you, you'll leave through the window. He straightened. The smirk vanished. All right, I'm out, he muttered, brushing past me without eye contact. The door slammed behind him. I didn't move. I stood in that hallway, rain dripping from my coat, water pooling at my feet. Natalie just stared at me, shaking slightly. Jacob, she whispered, this isn't what you think. I exhaled once, slowly, like I was letting go of something heavy. I'm done, I said. She blinked. What? I didn't shout. I didn't argue. My voice was calm, tired. I'm done with the games. The pretending. The version of you that thinks this is normal. Her expression crumbled, voice rising in panic. Wait, Jacob, just listen, okay? You don't understand. I do. I interrupted. I understand perfectly. You made your choice. I turned toward the door. She ran after me. You're just walking out? After everything? I paused with my hand on the knob. Everything, I said quietly. You mean the birthday humiliation? The silence? The lies? Rain beat against the windows as her breath caught. You don't mean that, she whispered. I looked over my shoulder one last time. Yes, I do. And then I stepped into the storm. The door clicked shut behind me. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one left standing in the silence. She was. If you're still listening, please tap the like button on this video. I didn't go back to the studio that night. I couldn't. My shoes were still soaked through, the cuffs of my jeans cold and heavy. Rain streaked across the windshield of my car as I sat there parked outside a closed gas station, staring into nothing. The hum of the heater barely touched the chill sinking into my chest. I unlocked my phone. For a long minute, I didn't do anything. Just hovered my thumb over her name. Then I typed, "Can I stay with you for a few nights?" The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then, of course, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer that part. I just replied, "I'll head over." Her place was 15 minutes away. Small house near South Park, tucked behind a grove of eucalyptus trees and wind chimes on the porch. When I pulled up, she was already at the door, waiting barefoot in a hoodie and pajama pants, holding a mug with both hands. She didn't ask questions. She just stepped aside and let me in. The air inside her home was warm, not just from the heater, but from the way it felt lived in. Real. There were soft lamps instead of overhead lights. A faint lavender scent hung in the corners. Jazz played low from a speaker in the kitchen. "You're soaked," she said quietly. "Let me get you something to change into." I nodded, too tired to explain. She disappeared down the hall, and I stood in her living room, dripping quietly on her rug, unsure how I'd ended up here and why it felt better than anywhere else I'd been in months. Camille returned with a dry t-shirt and sweats. "Guest bathroom's right there," she said gently. When I came back out, she handed me a fresh mug, tea this time, cinnamon and something floral. We sat on the couch in silence for a while. Nothing needed to be said. Not yet. Eventually, she asked, "Was it what you thought?" I stared into the cup. Worse. She didn't push. I glanced around her place. Shelves filled with old poetry books, framed pictures of mountains and fog. No fake art. No curated shelves for show. Just things that felt like her. "You live quiet," I said. She smiled slightly. "I need quiet." I took a long sip. Feels good. Being here. Feels safe. Her eyes softened. That's all I wanted to be. There was something about the way she said it. No pressure, no undercurrent. Just a space. A harbor. I leaned back into the couch, finally letting my shoulders drop. For the first time in what felt like years, I let out a full breath. No tension. No defenses. She turned the music down even lower and pulled a blanket over both of us. Not in a way that suggested anything. Just comfort. Quiet understanding. "You don't have to talk tonight," she murmured. "We can just sit. Let the silence do the work." So that's what we did. I didn't speak about Natalie, or the man in my house, or the sick, hollow twist in my gut when the door closed behind me. I just sat there, with Camille, wrapped in a calm that felt borrowed from another life. Somewhere in the second cup of tea, I looked over at her and said, "Thank you." She gave a small smile. "Anytime, Jacob." The rain still fell outside, but in here, it couldn't reach me. Not tonight. Not anymore. Exactly 7 days after I walked out, I signed the papers. It was a cool Friday morning. The kind that smells like clean pavement and distant ocean air. I'd gotten up early, beat the downtown traffic, and sat in the clerk's office longer than I expected. The moment didn't feel as dramatic as it should have. No thunder, no shaking hands. Just a black pen and a line where my name belonged. I slid the file across the desk, thanked the assistant politely, and left without looking back. Natalie found out later that afternoon, not from me, but from the court notice emailed to both of us. By sunset, the chaos had already started. She went full performance mode on social media. Her stories turned grayscale. Quotes about healing and betrayal flooded her feed like a breakup playlist with no off button. The captions were the real show. "I gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. Broken heart. Some people don't know how to fight for what matters." Just because I stayed silent doesn't mean I wasn't hurting. Within hours, the pity likes started rolling in. Half of them from people I hadn't seen in months. The other half from her cousins and high school friends who didn't know a thing about what had actually happened. I didn't respond. Neither did Camille. Not publicly. Not privately. We didn't have to. The story Natalie tried to spin started unraveling on its own. Friends we once shared began to shift, subtly at first. I noticed it in how Kevin stopped reacting to her posts. How Brianna, once her ride or die, started sharing articles about emotional abuse and dignity in silence. Natalie kept digging the hole, even when no one asked her to. One day it was a crying selfie. The next, a paragraph-long post about how being replaced by someone you once introduced is a pain no woman should feel. The irony nearly choked me. She acted like I blindsided her, like she hadn't already done the same 10 times over, just quieter, just without witnesses. Camille and I said nothing. We weren't hiding, but we weren't flaunting anything either. A dinner here. A walk in Balboa Park. Quiet conversations over wine and soft music. The more Natalie screamed online, the more people began to listen and then question. And slowly, the tide turned. Where she once got hundreds of comments, she now got silence. Or worse, subtle sarcasm disguised as support. Stay strong. Girl nail polish, even if you threw the first punch winking face. Healing looks different on everyone, even when they're the ones who need to apologize. Eventually, she turned her comments off. But it didn't stop the quiet. The kind that creeps in when the crowd you perform for realizes they've seen this act before. And they're no longer clapping. The holiday party was at Brianna and Mitch's house, the usual spot. Every year they did it up big. White lights wrapped around the porch railing, pine-scented candles in every room, and the kind of soft jazz playlist that made you feel like you'd stepped into a holiday movie. But this year, everything was different. Camille and I arrived together. We didn't make a scene. We didn't need to. She wore a sleek black dress that didn't beg for attention, just quietly demanded it. I had on a dark sweater, blazer over it. Simple, clean. We looked peaceful. That was the word. As we stepped inside, conversations dipped slightly, just for a second, before picking back up. Kevin was the first to greet us, clapping me on the back. "Glad you came, man," he said, glancing at Camille with a respectful smile. "Both of you." Camille offered a polite nod. "Appreciate the invite." People noticed. The way she didn't cling to me. The way I didn't use her as a shield. We weren't a performance. We were just there, together. A few more minutes passed before the front door opened again. This time louder, more chaotic. Natalie. She stumbled in like the party owed her something. Already tipsy, cheeks flushed, laughter just a bit too loud. Wearing sequins, heels too high for the floor, perfume too heavy for the room. Heads turned, not in admiration. In anticipation. I felt Camille's fingers gently brush mine. Not a grip, just a quiet "I'm here." Natalie spotted us quickly. Her smile faltered. She hesitated near the entryway, drink in hand, scanning for a lifeline. Brianna approached her first, polite, but distant. "Hey, Nat coats go in the guest room." No hug, no squeals. Natalie muttered something and moved deeper into the house. She passed us once, didn't say anything. Her eyes lingered on Camille's hand resting lightly on my arm. An hour into the party, she finally approached. I was near the kitchen, grabbing more gingerbread cookies than any grown man should reasonably admit to, when she walked up beside me. "Really?" she said, voice low and slurred. "You bring her here?" I turned slowly. "Good to see you too." She laughed, bitter. "Don't play polite. You knew this would hit me." "I didn't bring Camille to hit you," I said, calmly. "I brought her because she's part of my life now." Natalie leaned in, trying to smile, trying to seduce back some version of control. "We had something real, Jacob." I didn't flinch. "Yeah, until you decided I wasn't good enough in front of 20 people. You're still mad about that?" "No," I said, "I'm not mad. I'm just done." She blinked. "You're really not going to even try?" I looked past her for a second, saw our friends chatting with Camille in the living room, completely at ease around her. "No, Natalie." Trying was years of patience, of swallowing disrespect. What I'm doing now is healing. She opened her mouth to respond, but Brianna appeared beside us with a kind smile. "Hey, Nat, maybe let's catch up another time. It's getting a little tense in here." Natalie blinked, stunned. "You're siding with him?" Brianna shrugged. "I'm just trying to protect the energy in my house. Maybe you should get some air." Natalie looked around, at the people not jumping in to defend her, at the room that felt more closed off than usual. For the first time that night, she looked genuinely alone. She left quietly 10 minutes later, drink half finished, coat half buttoned. No one stopped her. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was on the outside of something. I felt free. Camille came up behind me, slipping her hand into mine. "You okay?" she whispered. "More than okay," I said. "I'm home." It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon when my phone rang. I was sitting in Camille's sun-drenched living room, sipping a second cup of coffee, scrolling through work emails. The caller ID made my stomach clench, not out of emotion, but from the memory of it all. "Natalie." I let it ring twice, then answered. "Jacob," she said, breath already shaking. "Please don't hang up. I'm listening." I replied, my voice neutral. Calm. Steady. A pause. Then the flood began. "I know you hate me. I know I messed up. I was confused and lonely and stupid, and I thought you didn't care anymore. But seeing you with her, Jacob, I can't sleep. I can't eat." "Natalie," I interrupted. "What is it you want from me?" She was crying now, quietly. "I want to fix it. I want another chance." I leaned back in the chair, eyes on the window. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "But I'm not interested in going backwards." "You don't mean that," she whispered. "We built a life. You don't just erase that." "I'm not trying to erase anything," I said. "I'm just not clinging to something that already ended." She didn't respond. Then, with a bitter twist, she added, "So that's it? You and Camille just ride off into the sunset and pretend I never existed?" "No," I replied. "You'll always be part of my story, just not the part one keep returning to." She exhaled sharply. "You're cold." "I'm calm," I corrected. "And I earned it." She was quiet. Then, her tone changed, sour, biting. "Did you hear? Derek's wife left him. He's a wreck. Everyone found out. No one's returning his calls." I didn't flinch. Not surprised. "People are calling him a snake," she added. I could hear the edge in her voice, like she wanted that to mean something to me. Like Derek falling apart was some kind of justice that would open a door back into my heart. But it didn't. "I'm not concerned with Derek," I said. "Or his wreckage." "And what about me?" she asked, voice small. "You'll be fine," I said. "You'll find your way." "You really believe that?" "Yes," I said softly. "But not with me." A long silence followed. Then, her voice, barely audible. "She was my friend." "She still is," I said. "To me." I didn't hang up right away. I let the silence stretch for a moment longer. Then, "Take care of yourself, Natalie." Click. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just peace. That chapter was closed. Not torn out. Not burned. Just closed. And this time, I wasn't the one left wondering what could have been. I knew. And I chose something better. 1 year later, the house felt completely different. Not just redecorated, reborn. Every room had shifted. The cold gray walls Natalie once insisted on were now warm sand tones. The harsh overhead lights had been replaced with soft glow lamps. And where there used to be empty decorative bowls and unread coffee table books, there were now shelves filled with real stories, lived-in corners, a small record player, a plant that actually stayed alive. Camille stood in the center of the living room, barefoot, turning slowly with a mug of tea in her hands. "You know," she said, eyes sweeping over the room. "This place used to feel like a showroom. Now it feels like home." I smiled. "That's because someone who lives here now actually wanted to stay." She looked over at me, that calm steadiness in her gaze. The same look she'd given me the night I knocked on her door soaked from the rain. The same look she'd given me during the hard conversations, the quiet nights, the small celebrations. "You think we'll keep it this way?" she asked. I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "Only thing I'd change is the doorknob. It still squeaks." She laughed. "Leave it. I like when houses make noise. It means they're alive." I walked over, placed a hand on her back, and kissed the side of her head. "We built something good here. We didn't rush it," she said. "That's what saved it." That night, we sat on the porch with glasses of red wine, a soft breeze drifting in from the hills. Neighbors walked by with dogs, kids shouted faintly down the street, and somewhere 2 blocks over, wind chimes played their quiet song. "I still think about it sometimes," I admitted, staring into the night. "Not her. Just who I used to be." Camille nodded, not looking away. "What do you see?" "A man who kept making himself small," I said, "until someone else's comfort became more important than his dignity." She didn't rush to comfort me. She didn't offer cliches. Just waited. I don't want to be that man again, I added. You're not, she said simply. Silence settled between us, the good kind. Later, while locking up for the night, I paused by the old mirror in the hallway, the one I used to avoid when things were falling apart. Now, I looked straight into it. I saw a man who didn't carry shame like armor anymore. A man who had been broken, publicly, painfully, and still found peace on the other side. Camille passed behind me and met my eyes in the reflection. Ready for bed? Yeah, I said, turning off the light. This house, this life, it wasn't perfect, but it was honest. It was safe. It was ours. And as I slid into bed beside her, I didn't feel the need to look back anymore. Sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. Just rising so quietly, so gracefully, it hurts. And that was the end of the story. I still think about the moment when Brianna gently asked Natalie to leave the holiday party. Not with anger, just quiet firmness, to protect the peace we were finally living in. Did she do the right thing by stepping in? Or should she have stayed out of it? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear what you would have done. And if this story moved you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. There's more to come.